Tfilat Rosh Chodesh, but literally in celebrating together, and Be'ezrat Hashem, in bringing refuah and geula to OUisrael. And that's what we're going to speak about this morning, as I also personally dedicate this shiur to the refuah of my nephew, Noam Abraham ben Atara Shlomit, Nero Yair Be'ezrat Hashem, who was wounded in Lebanon 11 days ago, and still davening for him to wake up and to begin his process of recovery. And that really is the theme of this month. This is a month where we not only remember how this milchama began 421 days ago, this is the month that in Masechet Ta'anit we hear that if the She'ilat Geshamim, when we started asking for rain on Shmini Atzeret, a year plus ago, Mashiv Haruach U'Morid HaGashem, not knowing that this was not necessarily going to be Melchemet Charbot Barzel, but this is Melchemet Mashiv HaRuach, the Melchama literally of restoring Ruach, of spirit to OUisrael. And Chazal tell us that if with our not only Haskarat Gavurat Geshamim, but if She'ilat Geshamim, if the month of Cheshvan has not brought us the sufficient rains, then we have to work even harder in Kislev. Then we start to fast in the month of Kislev. And our tefillot are meant to become even stronger in the month of Kislev. So if we still haven't seen the full bounty of the nitzachon of Melchemet Mashiv HaRuach, then this is the month where we have to not only recount our loss, but bring back some of that spirit. And some of that spirit, Chazal tell us, and certainly in Chassidut, as Rabbanit Racheli discussed as well, this is the month as we approach the winter solstice, the month of the longest nights, which also means that it's the month of our longest dreams. The dreams that, starting this Shabbat of Chodesh Kislev, every single Shabbos of this month, we speak about dreams. The dreams of Yaakov Avinu, the dreams of Lavan, the dreams of Yosef, the dreams of Sarah Mashkim and Sarah Ophim, the dreams of Paro. And obviously we celebrate not only dreams, but literally the dreams of light and dreams of restoration of spirit. So the question is, what are dreams? Dreams, as we find by Yaakov Avinu, who really is the first character in Tanakh, not necessarily who dreams. We hear about a dream of Abimelech, but his dream is the first one that the Torah actually tells us the details of his dream. His dream of a sulam utzad arza, and other malachim olim v'yordim. And the Rambam explains, who are these malachim? These are malachim olim, these are mortal men actually, that Yaakov is aspiring to be like. Men who can leave this earth and aspire shamayim, aspire to become neviim, to receive messages from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then to relay them to OUisrael down here. Or as the Nefesh HaChaim says, the dream is really about his neshama, going up and down, because we all have this dialectic inside of ourselves. How much are we really connected to the celestial spheres, and how much are we connected to the earthly spheres? But we know that dreams are also expressions, as Chazal tell us, of Hirurei Libenu, literally, of the doubts, the thoughts, the reservations that we have. We know these Hirurim are very often not just aspirations, but there are anxieties. Chazal speak about how Yaakov Avinu was dreaming of even the malachim hurting him until Hashem yitzav alav, until HaKadosh Baruch Hu hovered over him. And Chazal tell us that it's not just about the dream, but it's about the dreamer. That the dreamer is the one who actually interprets his own dream. Because in fact, Yaakov Avinu really was worried. He was worried as we are. He was contending with the Hezbollah and Hamas of his time, and he saw, Chazal tell us, he saw all the future empires and enemies of OUisrael, literally olim, rising and going up, and yordim, and each one having their period in the limelight, and then their downfall. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to Yaakov Avinu in his dream and says, Yaakov, why aren't you going up? And Yaakov says, but Hashem, I'm afraid. If I go up, then I'm also going to go down. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, Yaakov. If you go up, if you only take the first step, if you only believe a little bit in yourself, if you only have that dream to go up the rungs of the ladder, and yes, it's hard work, then ata oleh, and you will never, ever come down. But Yaakov lo himin v'lo Allah. Yaakov didn't believe. And it's hard to imagine that he didn't believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather he didn't believe in himself. And because he didn't believe in himself, the Midrash continues and tells us, Rav Shimon ben Yosina explains, because of that, we had to suffer by the hands of all these other empires throughout the generations. So it really is about the dreamer. It's about us. It's not the content of the dream, but it's how we respond to the dream. And Rashi explains, ironically, what happened the next morning, albeit in his dream, Yaakov didn't go up, but the next morning, inspired by the Haftachot, the promises, and the reassurance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yaakov nasa libo et raglav, says Rashi. He was able to pick himself up and continue on his journey. He was able to overcome those obstacles along the way. This is what the month of Kislev is all about. To dream and to lift ourselves up, to go up those ladders even when it's very difficult. And this is exactly why we find that this is the month where we have to ask ourselves, 421 days since the beginning of this war, with all the chasadim, with all the tefillot, with all the torot, with all the beautiful, Chodesh halels, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ad matai. This is a month where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is enjoining of us to keep dreaming. This is the month where we think of Honi HaMagel, not only for bringing the rains miraculously, but we think of Honi, of who Rabbi Yochanan says he never understood the true nature of Geula. He never understood the Pasuk, Shir HaMalot, B'Shuv Hashem et Shivat Zion, Hayinu K'chumim. He says, what do you mean we were like dreamers for 70 years of exile? Who dreams for 70 years? Psychologists today explain this well. We dream maximum up to 2 minutes. What's a dream of 70 years? Honi, for whom everything comes right away. The rains come right away. The winds come right away. He can't understand. Why can't Geula come right away? And maybe we have a little bit of that Honi impatience in us as well. So Chazal tell us, Honi was supposed to learn his lesson because one day he was walking on the path and he saw a man who was planting a charuva. We generally translate this as a carob tree, but let's not lose sight of the fact that he's planting from loss. He's planting charuv. He's planting from destruction. And he turns to the man and he says, how long does it take for fruit to come? For you to pick the fruit from this eitz charuv? How long does it take to pick the fruits of planting from destruction? And the man wisely says, it can take up to 70 years. It can take up to 70 years until our chayalim of today, our great-grandparents. And then, and only then, they'll understand the fruits of the sacrifices of their friends who lost their lives and their limbs when they look at the geula of the great-grandchildren. And Honi says, is it so clear to you that you're going to be living for 70 years and bearing and reaping the fruits of your labor? And the man says, you don't understand. Because I was born into a world of a charuv, deshatali avote, that my parents, that my fathers planted for me. I'm a Holocaust, I'm a child of a Holocaust survivor. I was born into this war. And I want to plant a different type of tree. I want to plant from charuv. I want to plant from chorban. I want to plant from charvot barzel. I want to plant. I want to plant so that my children have a different type of world. And Honi goes to sleep while this man plants and waters and sows and prunes and gives birth to his son and teaches him how to continue to invest in the planting for the next generation. And then 70 years later, Honi wakes up and he sees someone picking the fruits of the tree and he says, are you the one who planted? He says, no, I'm his grandson. And Honi, who's been slumbering, who's been passive this entire time, you would think that he would understand what it means then to dream and to plant and to build and to recognize that it takes not sleeping and dozing in passivity, but it takes dreaming, chalomot, and lechima. Yes, it takes that to build a world from Charvot Brazil, to build a world of Hashavat HaRuach. So Honi goes back to his family and he says, is Honi's son still alive? And they say, no, but his grandson. And instead of him waiting to see and making himself relevant to his grandson, Honi goes instead to the base midrash where he overhears people saying, yes, the days of Honi, everything was so clear. Honi would solve all of our problems, all of our kushiot. And Honi says, but I'm Honi. And they don't believe him because Honi just wants to keep time as it is. He doesn't want to recognize that there's a process, but that process demands activity. And Honi, who would rather remain passive and would rather and prefers immediate answers, ask for rachamim to be taken from this world. Chazal tell us this month of Hanukkah, the month where we restore some of the light of our loss, the month of the long nights, the month of dreaming, the month where we bring so much or we start specifically on Chavhei Kislev. And there are all different explanations. Why Chavhei Kislev, the time of Chanukhat HaBayit? Why did the Chashmonaim wait so long if we know that the wars were already won? And Har HaBayit was in their hands already in the month of Tishrei. And if we look carefully at Tanakh, we understand when we open up the words of Chagai HaNavi, who lives during the time of Shivat Zion, who helps OUisrael build from 70 years of destruction. He also dreams together with them, and he tells them on Chaf Dalet Kislev, in 520 BCE, he tells them, I have a dream. I see that this Yom Yisod Heichal Hashem, that right now we're just putting up a cornerstone for the Beis HaMikdash, a little tiny something. He says, but I'm telling you, Zerubbabel ben Shaltiel, political leaders, Yoshua ben Yotzadak, the Kohen Gadol, the religious leaders, this is our opportunity, he says. Ruchi omedet b'tochachem. The spirit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here, miterem sum even al even, because now we're going to build more. Now we're going to see the Yom Yusad Heichal Hashem. This is the day, he says, get ready. V'hafachti et kisei mamlachot v'hishmatati chozek mamlachot hagoyim v'hafachti merkaba v'rochvaha. You're going to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to provide victory against your enemies. Literally, Rabbim Biyan Ma'atim. And unfortunately, we know in 520 BCE that Zerubbabel ben Shaltiel does not wage war against the Persians. But what do you know? This dream stayed alive in the hearts and the minds of OUisrael, in the hearts of the Hashmonaim, so that when they literally fulfilled this Nebuah 350 years after Chagai, they recognized this is a fulfillment of the words of the Nevi'im, that the Nevi'im are demanding of us, if not for their time, then now's the time to fulfill their words. And the Hashmonaim said, wait a second, we're the ones who did this. We're the ones who were triumphant, few against the many. We were the ones successful in Hafachnu Kisei Mamlachot. We're the ones who are re-inaugurating the Beis HaMikdash, Yom Yusad Heichal Hashem. We're going to do it on the day of the fulfillment of Chagai's Nevuah. We're going to build the Mizbech and Chaf Dalet Kislev, and then celebrate, as we know, the 8 days of Chanukhat HaBayit. The Gemara tells us there's a reason, though, why Chagai came on Chaf Dalet Kislev. Why did Chagai choose such a strange date? Chagai, who's so particular with his selection of dates to deliver his prophecies. Why did he come on Chaf Dalet Kislev? To speak about the spirit, the restoration of Ruach, to speak about victory. And the Gemara in Mesachet Avodah Zarah tells us that in fact these are the darkest days of the year. That Adam Harishon was so afraid as he got closer and closer. Chaf Dalet Kislev, he saw that the nights were getting longer. He saw that it was a time of darkness, and he sat for 8 days in Tefillah and Tanit because he was afraid that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to destroy the world because of his sin. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of these 8 days, all of a sudden, the days become a little longer and the nights a little shorter. And he started to celebrate. Chagai comes during the darkest time of the year. We're about to enter the darkest time. The time that we know precedes the light. The time that comes when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so dream more, but dream not in a passive way. Dream with that ruach. This is the time that we not only recognize the fulfillment of the words of Chagai, Ruchi omedet b'tochachem, This is a time of greater spirit. Don't lose the momentum. Don't lose the morale. Don't lose sight of the process of Geula, but rather invest in it more right now. This is a time, the month of Kislev, where we're also going to read of Haggai's peer, his colleague, the Navi Zachariah, who also sees a vision of a menorah, the darkest time, and he sees a vision of light. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, come on, Zachariah, do you know what this is? And he says, no. He says, yes, you do. This is a reminder that when you go through the darkest of times, when you fight your wars, it's not because of your cannons, it's not because of your Nemerim, it's not because of your M16s, it's not because of all the American artillery. No, that it's going to be because of the Ruach of Hashem. It's because of that spirit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, represented through the menorah. You're going to see the light, and the light is going to come this month. And we're going to bring the light because we're going to bring greater Ruach, greater spirit of Hashem. We're going to be the ones who, as Yechezkel is implored by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring Ruach to the Atzamot Yeveshot. Hashem says, come on, Hinabei ala Ruach. Don't lose sight, Yechezkel, come on. Call the Ruach. Call out to the people who are so battered, who are so worn. It's been 421 days, and Hashem says, yes, they're worn. Yes, these are Atzamot Yeveshot Ma'od. And we can all relate, and we all see both the physical and literal and not figurative skeletons before us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so now it's time for the Ruach. Bring that Ruach, Yechezkel. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Yechezkel, once you call out to the Ruach, I'm going to bring you back to Eretz Yisrael. And that's when you're truly going to feel the Ruach. And that's when the Ruach is not only going to bring these bones back to life. That's when Hashem tells Yechezkel, then take branches and graft one branch on the other, because now's the time also for Achdut. Once the Ruach is here in the country, now it's time to bring everyone together. And this, as we know, is the last stage of Geula. Shir HaMa'alot b'shuv Hashem et Shivat Zion hayinu k'chol yom. We say this at least on a weekly basis. But do we truly recognize that we're the dreamers, and this is the month of dreaming? And Chassidut, the sign of this month, is sleep, to make sure that we dream more, to bring more of Chalomot and Lechima with that Ruach of Hashem, of Chagai, with the light of Zechariah, with the Achdut of Yechezkel. This is a month to plant more. This is a month to dream more. And don't think for a moment that dreaming is passive, that dreaming, like Honi, is all about sleeping through the process, because it's not. Dreaming means learning. Dreaming, Rabbi Sachs says, is not impractical, but one of the most practical things we can do. There are people who spend months planning a holiday, but not even a day planning a life. Instead, they let themselves be carried by the winds of chance and circumstance, but that's a mistake. That's living a vayehi life, when we allow things to happen to us, which Chazal explained is always miu ad leparanut. It always leads to something terrible. When we just hope that things are just going to happen on their own, he says no. We all have to transform ourselves through our dreams to climbing up those rungs of the ladders, of overcoming anxieties, of not losing sight of the process of Geula. So yes, it's hard, but we dream and we plant and we create a Yehi life for ourselves. We're the ones who bring Geula, because it's dreams that give us direction. It's dreams that remind us of what our goals are. And we, the women of OUisrael, Chazal tell us, it's you. It's all of us. It's the women who somehow know how to dream. Maybe it's the men who are the lochamim, but it's the women who are the chomot, who understand the lechem and the chalom. It's the women, as we know, who are going to have the power to unify. It's the women whom Chazal tell us, בזכות נשים צדקניות נגאלו בני ישראל ממצרים, ובזכות נשים צדקניות שבכל דור עתידים בני ישראל להיגאל. Rav Kook tells us, when we think of dreamers, he says, don't just think of Nevi'im, don't just think as prophets, as dreamers. Don't just think as philosophers as dreamers. Don't just think of poets as dreamers. He says we're all dreamers. If we can take the murky reality of our lives and somehow adjust our sights, clarify the resolution, and make sure that we don't lose sight of our goals. Those are real dreamers. It says if we know how to dream and bring that dream back into perspective, so we have to learn what the sight of Geula is. There have been so many women since the start of this war. Unfortunately, hundreds and thousands of Yemahot Shakolot, mothers who have lost their sons. And so many mothers have reached out and they said, Shani, when people come to offer us nechama, when people come to pay a shiva call, they say, don't worry. This is a stage right before Geula. This is Chavlei Mashiach. Hold on tight to that Chavel. These are the birth pangs before Geula. You're going to see your son again dancing. B'tchiyat hametim. And they said, well, what does this mean? What does it mean? And what can we do? And then, Bana, my very good friend Jen Airley called and said, Shani, I'm representing all these women. These women want to know about Geula. And my cousin Esti Golovensit, whose son David also fell, or as Jen says, they don't fall, they rise. When these sons rise, the mothers rise to greater heights and they keep dreaming. And they want to know, so what can we do? So starting today, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we're going to dream new rungs, higher rungs of a ladder. We're going to plant and build as we've never built before. We're going to learn, we're going to daven, we're going to perform more acts of chesed than we ever have. But most importantly, we, every single woman here in this room, we're going to be mekablot al atzmeinu, take responsibility for catalyzing the process of Geula. We're going to dream and we're going to plant. And every month we're going to take upon ourselves a new project to bring more light to OUisrael, particularly starting with this month of Kislev. We're going to set new standards. We're going to turn and we're going to scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and basically say to Hashem, look, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, that we've been saying so many times every single day. So I'd like to introduce now Jen, who will share a little bit of a dream that is really all about Yisrael's dream, and a little bit of the rungs of the ladder that we're all going to climb together. Chodesh Tov.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbanit Shani. Just talking about planting. The Airleys are in a particular not difficult. We're in a time of between Parshat Toldot and Kislev. Kislev was the Taragin that Binyamin went up to Shamayim to be next to Kisei HaKavod, but it was on Shabbat of Parshat Toldot. So we're in the days of extra siyata d'shmaya, extra feeling, I can't even say heaviness, it's almost sitro memut, but extra feeling, let's leave it at that. And these are the days that just yesterday in the Parsha, just talking about Yitzchak planting. When Binyamin was taken up on Parshat Toldot, I can only relate to Yitzchak, a character that I actually had the most difficult time to connect to in the past, because what do we really know about Yitzchak? There's so little that's said directly about him. But I've learned so much about Binyamin as I'm learning more about Yitzchak. Yitzchak vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh, somebody who goes out to the field, so whether it's to pray, to connect, or to plant, from sicha or sichim, the different interpretations of what Yitzchak did out there. But this is how Yitzchak connects to Hashem in the sadeh. And that's bidyuk how Binyamin connected, whether through planting, whether through hitbodedut in the fields, but it's in the field that he found Hashem. That's his place of connection. But we also say about Binyamin, we didn't bury him, we planted him. We planted him in Eretz HaKodesh, the place that he loved with every cell of his body, and now every cell of his guf is now connected to the land. And from there comes the tzmicha, just like Yitzchak is a planter, so is Binyamin. And so we planted him. And just like we say about Geulah, it's a tzmicha, it's tzemach David. Rishit tzmichat gulatenu. This is how Geulah comes, like we just learned, planting seeds, like we plant with our children. They don't in 1 second grow up, even though it seems like it sometimes. But it's a lifetime. We plant the seeds, and sometimes the seeds have to, not sometimes, this is biology, basic 101, seeds disintegrate. They have to fall apart, they have to break apart in order that they can grow strong and tall. And perhaps this was the nation during our war, before the war, and now the tzmicha coming through the war and through this whole last 15 months, the tzmicha of our nation and the tzmicha of Geulah. And it is through this that we feel is the most perfect, beautiful time to really focus on limud of Geulah. Our idea with this group that we've now opened is perhaps if people really understand the beauty, what it is of Geulah that we are so yearning for, we would beg and pray and plead all day nonstop for Geulah. We just have to understand what it is that we want so badly. And that is this limud, that is going this limud, Geulah Yomi initiative that we have now started today, Be'ezrat Hashem. In our group, you see there's a QR code that is going around that you can join the WhatsApp group. And that will be Shlav Aleph. That's the first step to inaugurate here. But something else that was started, that we are starting today in Chodesh Kislev, as we just learned that every month, Be'ezrat Hashem, a new project, and this month of bringing extra light. You know, there are some people, I personally have been, I feel like I've been asking for Geulah for, we all have, but mamash me'alev for years. The fact that Binyamin is now part of the tzmicha is just like another oomph, but to me, like, my kids have been hearing about Beit HaMikdash building, yearning, wanting tefillah all the time. And some people can really relate to Yeshua turning to Tehillim, turning to Hashem with like simcha, like you're connecting. Oh, every time you get a chance to say Mizmor LeTodah, you get so excited. Every time you see something amazing, you turn to Hashem. And some people connect more to Hashem through pain, through loss, through difficulty. That's when they turn to Hashem. There are both, and we need both. I think this is David HaMelech, being able to turn to Hashem through the excitement and through the pain. And so I've been one that's been pachot yoter, really turning to Hashem, really through excitement, love, passion. Obviously, Binyamin was another level. But last night, as I was supposed to be sending my recording for the Geulah Yomi, was another blow to our nation, another neighbor who is now going to be sitting Shiva after the Levaya today. And I felt like, Hashem, die. I can't. And now I'm supposed to record something about Geulah Yomi. I'm supposed to be excited about this project, but pain. I'm bawling my eyes out. How can I turn to aval hem hadvarim? This is actually it. Hashem is almost reminding Jen, like, you also turn to Hashem through the pain, not just through the good times. And this is our Geulah. This is our balance of the two. So, as the night got a little darker last night, and as the siren woke us up super early this morning in Beit Shemesh, reminding of, no, we're not done yet. We're still very much in war, in confusion, in dark times. So the project for this month is adding extra light, actually, physically, with extra candles. Outside you'll find, when you go to the brunch there at the table, are extra Nerot Shabbat. that we invite you every Shabbos to use 2 extra candles, light 2 extra just for the month of Kislev. Add extra or. And when you light extra or, not just on Shabbatot, Erev Shabbos, to light the 2 extra candles, but also during Hanukkah, when you light the extra candles, it's an extra time to daven. The or is just bringing extra or. The lighting candles is extra zman of tefillah, and therefore we have printed for you also the tefillah legeula, to say, to beg, to plead when you light the candles, to daven for geula. You'll see around we have these tefillah legeula cards, and we have many more of them that we will be giving out. And so here we have for you the candles and the tefillah. I want to just say one extra word about the candles, and then I'm going to introduce to you the tefillah, or the composer, or the one who wrote this tefillah. But these candles are from Tzfat. They're actually brought directly from Tzfat. And Beit Binyamin, the retreat center that we opened in honor of Binyamin in Tzfat, has sponsored these candles, because Beit Binyamin is just about that you cannot break us. Hashem, we are going to just keep rising. We are that unbreakable spirit that just keeps going and keeps getting stronger. And Beit Binyamin also supports vendors of the north and of Tzfat, where their parnasa has struggled horribly this year. So Beit Binyamin has sponsored these candles, buying them from the Tzfat candles, and so that you have a set of candles that you can now take home and light extra, adding extra light into our darker times. But you will get 2 sets, one for you and one to shed light with somebody else. So you will each get 2 sets of candles that you take, and 2 cards of tefillah legeula, and you will spread that with your friends. Kacha anachnu nishot nashim, that will bring the geula be'ezrat Hashem. I'd like to introduce Esti Golovensis. Esti, who wrote this tefillah with Rosh Shmuel Eliyahu, and has been an inspiration, the source behind all of this. Esti has been pleading and trying to spread the word of Geula, Limud Geula, for already all these years, after her son David, Talmid of David HaMelech, also went up to Shamayim defending Eretz Yisrael.
Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Rabbanit Shani. It's such a zchut to be here. And Bezrat Hashem, it's going to be a very big zchut to be able to say this tefillah together, alongside with what's written on the other side. We have tefillah l'chatufim, and our ptsuim, and chayalim, and all of Am Yisrael. Before we say this tefillah together, I'd like to connect to what Rabbanit Shani was saying before about dreaming. So dreaming is an amazing thing. It can keep us in focus of Geula. And it seems sometimes that dreaming can be passive. Okay, so I'm dreaming about Geula, I'm thinking about it, I'm even longing, I'm even davening. But a dream is much, much more than that. We say that in Shir HaMa'alot, B'shuv Hashem et Shivat Zion, Hayinu k'Honi. The Rav Chalban, in his Sefer Mikdash Melech, he explains that b'zchut hachalom, we will actualize Geula. Not only does it keep us in focus, but it actualizes it mamash before. So, we can get connected to Geula on many, many levels. Geula is so, so much more than having all of our heartbreak fixed. That's just actually a tiny, tiny part of it. So I invite you to join our learning, because we're going to really be learning what Geula is on all of the levels, B'ezrat Hashem. One more word about the power of tefillah. I think that, Chazal said that we really have to believe in the power that we have with the words that come from our mouth. We have the power to change reality with our words. Mamash mamash kipshuto. The Ramchal says in Mesilat Yesharim that we should all be begging and crying for Geula. And then he says, It's the human tendency to say, my tefillah, what is my tefillah already worth? You know, like I'll say to Hashem, please bring Geula to OUisrael and it's going to do something. So he says that's our pitfall, because it's exactly how it's going to happen. And who knows, maybe it'll be yours, or who knows whose words will bring Geula before. So I invite you all to join in this tefillah leGeula, and the tefillot on the other side as well. Please say them in Hadlakat Nerot as well, okay? There are more tefillot. There's a bag at the end of the room, and I have some as well. Give them to Jen, whoever did not get. There are many, many more. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אב רחמן, שומע תפילה, שתהיה תפילתנו רצויה ואהובה מלפניך, ותתקבל ברצון וברחמים במהרה בימינו. רצנה לגאולנו גאולה שלמה, גאולה בחסד וברחמים גדולים. מלא רחמים, תקום תרחם ציון, כי עת לחננה כי בא מועד. למען שכינתך, למען מקדשך, למען ארצך, למען עמך ארצה את קרבתך, המייחלים לראות בתפארת עוזך. שמחנו אבינו בישועתך, ישועתנו, ושלח לנו את אליהו הנביא זכור לטוב, עם משיח בן דוד. נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך במהרה בימינו. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגיע ליבי בישועתך, אשירה על אדוני כי גמל עליי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, צורי וגואלי. So we'll continue after.
May all of our tefillot be answered with tova.